Hey guys, welcome to the 61st C programming tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to finish up looking at the math functions. And the first math function that we're going to be looking at in this tutorial is floor, F-L-O-O-R. And this function takes one parameter, and that parameter is a double. So if I were to go ahead right here and just pass through a 6.3, basically what this function is going to do is just return the largest integer that is less than this number right here. So the largest integer that is less than 6.3 is 6. So if I were to just go ahead right here and print out whatever this function returned out on my screen, I should just get a 6. So I'm going to say printf %.2f, since all math functions return a double, and then I'll just go ahead and end the line right there and finish off my function call. Alright, so when I run this, I should just get a 6.00 onto my screen. Perfect. And if I were to change this number to something else, such as 2.7, then I should get 2 out onto my screen, since the largest integer that is less than 2.7 is 2. So I run this, and sure enough, I get 2. Alright, there's a function that does pretty much the exact opposite of this function right here, and that is called ceil. And it's spelled C-E-I-L, which just stands for ceiling. And what this function is going to do is return the smallest integer that is greater than this number right here. So the smallest integer that is greater than 2.7 is 3. So when I run this, I should just get a 3 out onto my screen. Perfect. And if I were to change this to something else like 5.2 and run this, then I should just get a 6 out onto my screen, since the smallest integer that is greater than 5.2 is 6. So I run this and I just get 6. Perfect. Alright, one more math function is just called FABS, which just stands for floating point absolute value, and this function also takes only one parameter, which is a double. So if I just go ahead and pass through a negative 0.52 and run this, then I should just get 0.52 out onto my screen, since the absolute value of this is 0.52. So I run this, and perfect, 0.52. And if I were to change this to something else, like a 9 and run this, then I should just get a 9 out onto my screen, since the absolute value of 9 is 9. Perfect. Alright? And there actually is a function that is just regular ABS, which is just absolute value. And this function right here actually isn't inside of the math file. So we can just go ahead and delete this. This absolute value function right here is inside of the standard library file. So make sure that you have this included if you're going to be using the ABS function, or absolute value function. And this function right here just takes one parameter, and it's an integer, not a double. So we can't say the absolute value of 0.4, because 0.4 is a double. But we could, however, pass through negative 9, since negative 9 is an integer. Alright, and like I said, this function takes an integer as a parameter, and it also returns an integer. So we're going to have to change all this in here to an I, since this returns an integer. So if I run this, I should just get a 9 out onto my screen, since the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. So I run this, and perfect, I get a 9. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial, and I know that I didn't go through every single math function, but the rest of the math functions are pretty self-explanatory. So right here is basically just a list of all the math functions, and as you can see, they're pretty easy to use. Like the logarithm functions, those are pretty obvious how to use. All the trig functions, and the rest of these are pretty easy to use as well. And I'll leave a link to this webpage in the description, so that if you ever get curious about the rest of the math functions, you can always look here. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial, so see you guys.